we will bring you Follow the Action. You wonder what the big deal is about Follow the Action? We are the fastest growing podcast in the world right now. Downloaded over 50 countries, all 50 states. You can get us on Spotify, Apple. You can also go on our YouTube channel, get all kinds of videos. Are right here. And the reason that this show is so special is because these guys are so special. 34-13. That's 72.3%. These guys have hit since we've been doing this UFC show. You want to know who the best in the world is? We'll get right to it. He was the one they called when they needed lines for UFC #1. The world has been calling on him ever since because he's the best combat sports handicapper on the freaking planet, on God's green earth. He's wearing a green shirt right now. Unfortunately, it's for the Jets, who are the Mets with helmets, but he is not. He is Bagels, Joy Bagels, Mr. Joy Odessa. How you doing, Joy?
Good, JB. The Jets are due. Plus 11 tomorrow.
Do what? What do they do?
I don't know, but they're due. 0-2, but they're due.
I got you beat on the jersey today. I think I got Josh Gibson from the old Homestead Grace. Greatest home run hitter of all time.
Yeah, I was going to say he passed at a young age, right?
Passed it like 38 or 39. Yeah, probably would have been in the majors. He had 800 or 900 home runs. I lost count. He just kept hitting them.
You know what I was going to ask you, but I'm not going to ask you, JB.
What's that? Hey, let me get to the guy who's taking a shot at me right now. Not sure what it's about. I don't want to know. He is the legend himself, the best sports bettor of all time. He is the Philly Godfather, Mr. Steve Maltepes. Philly Godfather, how are you today?
Doing great, man. I heard we got a special guest in the chat rooms today. Paul Felder is going to be chiming in.
Awesome. He got my Zoom link.
He got your Zoom. So hopefully he comes on board with us, and him and Joey can, squash all the beef they got.
Joey, are you and Paul Felder still at odds with each other?
No, he blocked me, man. He blocked me. He was, but what gets me with this UFC commentary? And I was going to tweet about it, but then I just knew it would just get bombarded with bullshit again. Is these guys counting groin shots like little kids in the schoolyard? Every time a guy gets hit in the groin, they're like giggling and shit. I mean, it's just the most annoying. Like Joe Rogan doesn't do that. Bring back Joe Rogan, man. I just thought, I know I'm nitpicking here, but
it sounds like you squashed the beef. It sounds like you've forgotten all about it.
That's right.
The next person is from Bet Online, one of the best books in the world. He is not on camera because he was once known as Fabio. We understand he was on the cover of a lot of romance novels. We understand he's still a supermodel. He is Mr. Dave Mason. Dave, how are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me once again.
Well.
And you are well, actually, as in well. You had COVID, and apparently you're over it now, right?
Yeah, we're good, man. I fought through, and I graduated, and I'm ready to rock. Yesterday, I got out of my house and walked the streets, had a couple beers, and I'm ready to go. I feel good.
Well, I didn't know you had COVID. When you told me you had corona, I thought you were out partying and drinking up a storm, Dave. Wow.
Man, I had this BS, man. I was a pain in the ass, but whatever. I did my time. I'm a free man now. I got the antibodies. I'm high demand down here right now.
I had a COVID test this morning. I don't have the results yet, but literally I stayed up all night studying for it. I think I aced it. The doctor there said I did a great job. He knows I passed.
I don't need that damn Q-tip freaking getting violated by that thing anymore. That lady's jammed that thing so far up my nose the other day. I was, oh my God.
Well, in Costa Rica,
Huh?
They still take the temperature the old-fashioned way?
No. We no. Well, I think that Q-tip went up so far my damn nose, it might have took my temperature on the other side. That was horrible. No, I'm a big wimp.
Oh, God.
Well, guys, we got a heck of a card tonight. We're going to go through the entire UFC card. Mr. Dave Mason from Bet Online will give us all the money movements, where money is going. I'm going to give you odds just to give you a little reference, but that's what they were as of this morning when I was on the airplane flying down here to Orlando. We're going to go through the entire card, break it down. We got a matchup of undefeated fighters in the main event. Let's start off with the very first fight, and that is a light heavyweight fight. That is Kadis Abragimov. I practiced that. I hope I did better on my COVID test than I did on that. He is from Russia. He has been in the UFC for 3 fights. He has lost all 3 fights. He is 8-3 overall record, 2-1 as far as KOs, TKOs. 3-1 as far as submissions. He is fighting Danilo Marquez, who is in his UFC debut. He hasn't fought since February of 2018. He won that fight as in a unanimous decision. He is 9-2 overall. He is from Brazil. He is 4-1 on KOs, TKOs, 4-0 on submissions. The over/under stands at 2.5. It's a plus 110 to bet the over. Dave, what do you have the money on?
Yeah, Brigham off right now. 72% of the cash and 56% of the bettors are on him, despite his 0-3 record in the UFC, as you mentioned. Also, some sharp action on him as well at minus 160-ish. The over/under 84% of the action is on under 2.5, which is currently minus 150.
And Joey, do you have a take on this fight?
Yeah, this Brazilian kid is 6'6", 6'6", 205-pounder. You see what they did with Johnny Walker, like turning him into a star. My thought on this is if this guy was really, any good. I mean, I watched this fight. We lost in the LFA to Myron Dennis. I think that if there was any potential for this guy, I think that they would have got him in here a lot sooner into the UFC. I mean, he is 6'6", Brazilian. He trains over, I guess, some Maya's gym or whatever. I bet under in this fight. But I do think that the Russian here is going to win this fight. I think he's going to come out, fist blazing and probably sweep this kid. But, Marquez, 0-3 guy against a guy that hasn't fought since 2018 that's making his octagon debut. I mean, if the Russian doesn't win this fight, he's done. I bet under, though. I don't think this fight starts round 3. I went under 2.5 minus 20.
How is he not done now, Joey? I mean, he's 0-3. He has not looked good in any of the UFC fights.
He's, he's a body, man. He's just a warm body that comes in and he's 0-3. 1-3 in 2019. But he's 0-3 in the UFC. I don't know. Maybe he's got
he came into the UFC with a little bit of fanfare. I mean, yeah. I know that he was, undefeated. It is 8-0, right? That's what that math checks out at. But I know he came in with high hopes, prospect, as they say. So, it's maybe they're just giving him another chance. But if he goes 0-4, I can't see him sticking around. So back up against the wall syndrome here.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Billy Godfather, do you have something on this fight?
Both guys stink, man. The Russian got knocked out, he got submitted, and he lost a unanimous decision. The other kid hasn't fought since 2018. Both of their defenses is horrible. They're both horrible defensive fighters. I'm with Joey. I like the under 2.5. To me, I think this fight's a coin flip. Anything can happen. I'll take the dog. I'll take the plus money on the dog here, even though some sharp money on the Russian. I think anything can happen. Both these guys stink. But I like the under more than I like the side.
So you lean to the dog.
Yeah, I like the under though.
Yeah, I got to lean to the favorite. Yeah, we wash each other out here. I think that the favorite wins, but not enough to bet him to lay a price on him.
Yeah, 2-1. I lay 2-1 on that dude.
Why do you start, Joey? I don't understand. Why do you start with this fight? You're setting the tone for your entire show. I know this is just the prelims, but you're setting the tone for your entire show. You got 2 fighters who don't appear to be that good. Does this not seem shocking to you? They would start with this. I don't mean to bash the product, but they've got a wonderful card here. They don't have a good first fight.
They do that a lot. It seems to be, these early prelims. It's funny you say that because you look back at guys that are like probably the eighth in line. So figure the 4th or 5th bout of the night, like in their second appearance. I think that it seems to me that they move up as they get UFC experience. That's my
yeah. Fewer people are watching these earlier fights too. I mean, if you ever been to a card, you go. Yeah, of course, I'm a junkie, so I go in and watch the whole damn card. But you go in there and it's like 50 people in there for these earlier fights, and then by the main event, main card, the damn house is packed. So it's just these are the minor leaguers pretty much, just warm up fights. Sometimes you get an exemption, but usually the newer guys and the lower quality fights are earlier because there's fewer people are watching. Only the hardcore guys like the guys on this call are watching these fights usually.
This fight could be exciting. I mean, fucking 6'6" guy and going in, and the Russians, Russian's not tiny. He's 6'2". and he's young. I mean, he's aggressive. I mean, he could make for a good fight. A lot of times when you get these lesser-known guys, they turn, you know. I mean, I'm like you, Dave. If I go to an event, like, you know, I go right from the start.
Sure,
You know,
why
that's
not?
a boxing habit, you know.
I mean, once in a while you get some C-class fighters that put on a great show. I mean, one of the greatest boxing matches of all time is Gotti Ward, and they weren't A-class fighters. So you never know what's going to happen. You got two big guys here. As long as they're giving it their all, it should be an okay fight, man.
Never know.
Yeah.
Plus, its early fights are on Fight Pass too. So I mean, not everybody subscribes to Fight Pass. So you know, it's not on ESPN. It's not on the pay-per-view card. They're on Fight Pass. So again, only the UFC dorks like Joey and myself had the Fight Pass and are watching all these dang fights. So
Okay, you guys all did a good job of defending the first fight.
All right.
Tune in and bet it.
I just always, you know, I know it's a prelim. I know it's the first show. You know, and maybe you have two guys who will fight. The best fights sometimes are not your best fighters. It's guys who want to fight, as Philly Godfather says. The second fight is a heavyweight matchup. Mr. Juan Espino from Spain. They call him El Guapo. He is 10-1. He is 1-1 as far as KOs, TKOs. He's 7-0 as far as submissions. His sole loss came back in 2011. He was TKO'd in 9 seconds by Vitaly Minikov. They are very much even in this heavyweight matchup. Jeff Hughes and Espino. 6'3", 255 is Espino. 6'2", 258 is Hughes. Espino's coming off a 2-year layoff due to hand surgery, and he is the 3-1 favorite in this as of earlier today, fighting Jeff Hughes at plus 250. 10-3. He is 4-1 on KOs, TKOs, 1-0 as far as submission. Has not won his last 3. And one of them was a no decision. That was all in 2019. It is a minus 150 to bet the over, and the over is a 1.5 round total. Dave, where do you have the money?
Espino, the cash is on Espino. 74% of the cash is on Espino. 76% of the bettors, however, are on Hughes, and that's just kind of, again, that, you know, when you get a bigger favorite at minus 325 and take back on plus 275, all those little public bettors are on Hughes, whereas the money's on Espino. 67% of the action on the totals on over 1.5, I believe that is right now. Yep, over 1.5 minus 160.
And Joy, do you have something on this?
No, you know, this Hughes is just good enough to stink this fight up. Espino trains with, I guess, an American Top Team product. You know, I have a hard time seeing Hughes getting subbed. He's never been submitted before. That's Espino's bread and butter. And, you know, on their feet, I think Hughes is better on his feet. You know, Hughes, when he fought Duffy, it was an eye poke. But I remember I'm fairly certain I needed Duffy there. And I was glad that it went to a no contest because I think I was going to lose that fight. This is just off memory. He did beat that Maurice Green, who, now you'll remember this, JBL. Maurice Green fought Jan Valenti, the New York kid from Hofstra, the football player wrestler that went up to heavyweight, and he looked horrible at the weigh-ins. I mean, he carried it all in his belly, and the fight ended with Green on top of him, or with Valenti on top of him, and Green had him in a choke. I think it was a Ezekiel choke or whatever it was. I'm doing good here with the play-by-play, right? But yeah, and he was laying on top of him, and all of a sudden he tapped, and everybody's like, Jesus Christ, what happened? And, you know, people that didn't, the casual fans didn't understand it. You know, blood was cut off to his neck, and he was in trouble. But he did fight Maurice Green close. He beat Green once, lost to him once. I think that Hughes, I mean, I can't go lay 3-1 on Espino. I think Espino is a solid prospect. I don't want to even say a prospect because he's, what, how old is Espino now?
40 years old, got taken that in his second UFC fight. How's that work?
Yeah, I mean, he's tough, man. You know, and he's going to beat most guys that, you know, he's going to beat the Jan Valentes. But I tell you what, this Jeff Hughes, I think Jeff Hughes wins this fight. I didn't bet him, but you can't lay 3-1 on this guy if you like money. You just can't.
Philly Godfather, do you have something on this fight?
Lights out, knocks him out. Jeff Hughes wins this fight. Take the dog plus a 260.
Really? That's you would definitely take the dog on this.
I already bet it.
Already bet it. Thank you very much. I will put that down. That is a
yeah, I agree there. I think that's
dog
a good
special.
spot. That's a good spot to bet him. I mean, anything can happen. He might just get caught in something stupid, but you know, Jeff Hughes, he's been around. I mean,
when's the last time Espino fought? 2 years ago.
What's that?
When's the last time Espino fought?
2 years ago.
Yeah, he's 40 years old. I mean, most guys 40 years old and over, if they're not fighting all the time and staying sharp. I mean, you're just going to jump back in here against someone that can really, really punch, and someone who has, what's he, 0-2? Hughes is 0-2 in the UFC. He's got to win this fight to stay relevant. Take the dog plus the money.
Yeah, and he won on the Contender Series. He came from, I'm sorry, JB. Hughes came from the Contender Series, and he won by KO there. And then he laid an egg against Green in that rematch from LFA.
Next fight, we've got the Nightmare. It is William Knight in his UFC debut. He is a plus 145 dog. He's 8-1, 7-1 as far as KOs, TKOs, 1-0 as far as submissions. He has fought twice in 2020, and he won both by KO. He is fighting Alexa Kamur, who is a minus 165 favorite. At least that's earlier today when I checked it. Kamur is 6-0, undefeated. He is 5-0 as far as submissions. As far as KOs, TKOs, 0-0 as far as submissions. He's from Serbia. He had one fight this year, Justin Ledet, which he won in his UFC debut. The over-under is at 1.5 also. Minus 130 is the cost to buy the over in this. Dave, where do you have the money?
A little quick update on the odds. First, Kamur is minus 143, and Knight is now plus 123. 63% of the cash is on Kamur. 54% of the bettors are on Knight. Sharp action on Knight at about plus 150 again. He's currently plus 123. 77% of the actions on under 1.5, which is currently plus 115.
And Joy, do you have something on this?
Yeah, I bet Alexa Kamur. That's the kid that I guess he trains with Stipe Miocic out in Ohio. This William Knight, he hits hard. He's his first fight in the UFC since the Contender Series where he won by KO. I can understand why somebody would bet Knight in this spot, but I pulled the trigger on Kamur. I think that he'll stay. I think he'll walk out of here 7-0.
Philly Godfather, do you have something on this?
I mean, Knight can punch, right? He's 8-0 with 8 knockouts, but Kamur can punch as well. I think he's got 5 knockouts in 6 fights. I'll take the younger fighter. I'm with Joey, the 25-year-old. I'll take Kamur to win the fight.
And Philly Godfather takes Kamur as well, right?
Yeah.
I just think he's more well-rounded fighter. I think he's just
he can beat you in more ways. I think he can beat you in more ways.
And just so people know that are out there listening, first, thank you for listening. But right before the main event, we will recap the entire show and not go through who has picked who. So if you missed it, you'll be able to get a chance to get it. Next fight is a middleweight fight. It is Smokin' Shane Young, Kiwi from New Zealand. He's 13-4, 6-0 as far as KOs, TKOs, 4-0 as far as submissions, never been stopped. He's fighting Ludovic Klein, a Slovakian southpaw. 16-2 is his overall record. He's 7-1 as far as KOs, TKOs, 8-1 as far as submissions. He has won 7 straight. His last loss was in 2017, where he was subbed in the first. Middleweight fight, as I mentioned, and 2.5 is the over/under with a pretty even split, or at least as of earlier today, with a minus 105 to bet the over. Dave, where do you have the money?
Klein, 59% of the cash and 59% of the bettors are on Klein, and including some sharp action on him. And 80% is on under 2.5, which is currently minus 118.
And Joy, do you have something on this fight?
Yeah, I took Klein. I think, a lot of times I'm not fond of these guys that come in with these fancy records, but this kid's pretty badass. Young is tough. Young's got great cardio. I mean, he stays pretty busy, but I think Klein, of all these bouts, I think, and I hate to say this, I don't like betting overs in these cases, but I think this, I don't know. I like Klein. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, well, if I like Klein, I probably like under, but Shane Young is so durable. But I think Klein wins his fight.
And Philly Godfather, do you go with the Slovakian southpaw as well, Klein?
Yeah, Young's a real busy fighter. He's real tough. I think this fight goes over the total, but I like Klein as well. I'm with Joey. I agree with Joey, man. He's just a better overall fighter. The Slovakian, I mean, it's his time to shine.
And this will be Klein's, as I mentioned, UFC debut. He's a replacement to step in against Shane Young.
I think he missed weight too. He missed weight, right?
Yeah.
Didn't Klein come in over?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, I thought he looked good at the weigh-in. I didn't think he looked bad at all. He looked like a monster. And the other kid did the the New Zealand, what's the New Zealand rugby squad or whatever, you would know this, JBL, where they do
The haka.
The haka. This young did the haka at the weigh-in. I guess he started screaming and everything like that when they faced off. It was kind of interesting. It was weird. It was really weird. I thought
This should be a real good fight, Joe. This should be a real good fight. I think it's gonna be a real good fight.
I think this young kid is going to be there, but I think that Klein is going to Klein's going to beat him.
Next fight is the biggest mismatch according to odds, at least.
Is it bigger than Felder versus Odessa?
Yeah,
Pretty close.
Pretty close. Felder better watch his ass.
He speaks very highly of
kidding. I'm kidding. Somehow that's going to turn into a threat, and they're going to be kicking my door in. No, I'm joking.
Diego Sanchez is a 5-1 dog in this. As of earlier today, is a welterweight matchup against Jake Matthews, who is a 7-1 favorite. Diego Sanchez is a guy at 43 fights, 31-12. He is a southpaw. He is 10-4 as far as KOs, TKOs, 6-0. As far as submissions, he's fought one time this year, was a DQ in the third round back in February, I believe it was, against Pereira. And Jake Matthews, the biggest favorite on the card, is 16-4. The Celtic kid from Australia, he's 4-1 as far as KOs, TKOs, 7-2 as far as submissions. Fought one time in 2020, back in February, and that was a win by unanimous decision. He won the Ultimate Fighter 1 middleweight finale back in 2005, 15 years ago. Welterweight matchup, as I mentioned, 2.5 rounds is the over-under. Minus 130 is what it cost you, at least earlier today, to bet the over. Dave Mason from Bet Online, where do you have the money going?
Well, anytime you see odds that big, we're going to need the favorite, and that's the case here. I mean, everybody's placing those lottery tickets. 80% of the cash and 94% of the bets are on Sanchez. That plus money, just hoping for a big payout. Sanchez has just been around forever. He's taken a punch or two. I just hope he doesn't win just so they can stop the talk of him fighting Conor McGregor, which is a joke. I don't understand that. 53% of the action is on the under 2.5, currently minus 105.
Joey, what do you have on the fight? Yeah, I don't know, but this fucking Diego Sanchez is. I mean, I'm laughing while you're reading his stats, because if you watch him on Ultimate Fighter 1, he was such a fucking weirdo, and he won it. And he's going to that one guy corner him. I mean, I guess everybody that bet him and every cult leader out there is probably rooting for this kid. I mean, what a fucking weirdo! But it's great. Like, I'll say this about him: he fought that Brazilian and was getting his ass kicked, and he got fouled, and it was like money from heaven, the pennies from heaven, whatever, came down, because when he heard him say that it was an illegal blow, Diego had the smarts to say, fuck it, I'm hurt, I can't finish. And he got the DQ win. And I cashed. I was thrilled. I mean, he's just so...
If Anthony Smith did that,
I don't know. I mean, he just, no shame. It's just beautiful. He just don't... Diego Sanchez just doesn't give a fuck. He's nuts. He was pounding one of those ring girls. I'm not going to say which one she was, but I mean, he was early in his career. I mean, this kid he's been at the top, at the bottom, and I think he's at the bottom now. I think that, look, I just got to laugh at this fight, because Jake Matthews, he's got a great record and everything, 16-4, but when it came time to perform, he kind of laid an egg too. But that's why I love this fight. I'm going to sit back and laugh. I hope Diego does some weird, crazy shit, and I get a couple laughs out of it, and people, can like the chat room or whatever when he does, because I think it's going to happen. Diego's a freak, man.
And never ignores walkout, too. He's had some of the best walkouts in the history of the sport. Holding up the cross. He's holding up the cross, like trying to exercise his opponent. He's a character.
It's so awesome, though. I mean, I can't... He's
a badass. I mean, you say what you want about him, but I mean, he's been in some frickin' battles. I mean, he's way over the hill. He's a lunatic. But you know, he that dude comes to fight again, way over the hill. But you know, pound for pound, he's as tough as they get as when he's just a fighter through and through. So respect to him. He's had a legendary career, like you said. He's been up, he's been down. You know, but yeah, I mean, dude's still fighting for UFC 1. Holy hell, and he's still freaking fighting.
Yo, Dave, what's the total on the fight? What's the total?
2.5. Overs -125.
What do you like, Philly Godfather?
I think Sanchez is he's a survivor. He's 38 years old. He's had 43 career fights. He knows how to survive in there. I think the fight goes a distance. I can't see him win the fight, but I think it goes a distance. I'd go over 2.5.
Let me say one thing about Sanchez though, because I'm not saying I said some things derogatory, I guess, about him. He's actually a really good. He's supposed to be a really good dude. I mean, he's got a loss on his record, I believe. He fought a kid, someone that was handicapped in an MMA bout.
He's just that shit crazy, right?
No, he is crazy, but he let a youth that I believe the kid. I mean, it's kind of special. The kid, I think, had Down syndrome, and Diego let him beat him. And he's very selfless. He's fucking crazy, but.
Well, you got to be a little crazy to get in that octagon, Joe. I mean, you can't be, fuck, man.
A little crazy.
Listen, I've been boxing since I was 10 years old, and you couldn't pay me enough to get kicked in the fucking head.
Yeah, but I think he seems like a pretty genuine dude. You know what I mean? I don't know. All right, enough of Diego. If I bet against him, I want him to get killed.
And as Philly Godfather said, much respect to these guys. The worst UFC fighter is still a UFC fighter, and that is fucking world class, man. These guys are warriors, and they should be very proud of themselves. Even the crazy ones, as Joy said.
No, tough kid, man.
Next fight is also a 3-1 favorite. We have a few 3-1 favorites are better. Brad Riddell in a lightweight fight is the favorite. Another Kiwi from New Zealand. He's 8-1, 5-0 as far as KOs, TKOs, 0-1 as far as submissions. His sole loss was a submission to an armbar in the first round back in 2018, 105 in the first round. Surprisingly, the guy who submitted him, that's the only career win he ever had. He has won 5 straight. He's fighting the dog here, which is Alex De Silva from Brazil. De Silva is 21-2, but it's 13-0 as far as KOs, 7-1 as far as submissions. So out of the 21 victories, he had 20. He has stopped his opponent. He last fought a win in August of 2019. The over/under is at 2.5, and it's a plus 105 to bet the over as of earlier today. Dave Mason, where do you have the money?
Money is on Riddell, currently minus 300 to take back on De Silva's plus 250. 83% of cash on Riddell. 66 good God. 66% of the bettors, however, on De Silva. Over under 58% is on over 2.5.
And Joey, what do you have here? Do you like the former pro kickboxer Brad Riddell?
I bet under. I like this Riddell, though. I think he's a tough son of a bitch. But one thing about this Brazilian kid, he got caught. And that loss he lost by guillotine to Yankolov. But this De Silva kid won round 1 of that fight. I thought he looked all right in round 1 of that fight. Riddell's just got to break him down with those kicks and stuff, because if he doesn't, this De Silva's kind of live. I like under because I think De Silva's got the ability to maybe catch him, and I think Riddell's got the tenacity maybe to stop him. So I bet under. That's where I'm at on the fight.
Philly Godfather, are we interrupting a phone conversation here?
It's Coach, man. Coach loves Riddell. I got to go the other way. Give me Silva. I think Silva, if he gets him on the ground, he can win the fight. Yeah, Coach loves. He says he's the next big rising star here. I'm all over Silva, man. If Coach loves Riddell,
Coach thinks this is Matt Riddell. Matt Riddle from WWE. Coach don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
I don't know. I'm betting the other side.
Coach is betting this against this Riddell, thinking it's Matt Riddle.
He likes,
so don't put a lot of stock in
I don't know.
PG.
Last UFC fighter that Coach said was the second coming of Conor McGregor, he broke his leg in the first round. For those
he did.
We're up to speed on this. So if Coach is on Riddell, then we are all, and I recommend everybody, put the house on the other side.
And under.
And I hope you're listening, Coach. And I hope you're on your little burner account pulling all kinds of things about Jonathan Coachman out there.
Coach is that guy in chat telling us how great Coach is.
And Coach says, you guys didn't even notice. Coach, we're working. We don't have time to heckle us.
Yeah.
Next fight is we start with the main card. We're halfway through the show here, and we start with the main card, and that is Hakeem Mean Dawadu. He is 11-1. He's from Canada. He's 7-0 as far as KOs, TKOs. He's 0-1 as far as submissions. His sole loss was in the first round, the 39 seconds, to Danny Henry from Scotland back in March of 2018. He is fighting in this featherweight matchup Zubara Tukhugov from Russia, who's called the Warrior, which is easier to say. He's 19-4-1, 7-1 KOs, TKOs, 1-1 as far as submissions. He came in at 4 pounds over on the weigh-in, and he won his only fight this year, February of 2020, at Kevin Aguilera in a KO in the first round. Featherweight matchup, 2.5 is the total as far as the rounds. It costs you -200 as of earlier today to bet the over. Dave Mason from Bet Online, where do you have the money?
Yes, sir. It's pretty split. 53% of the cash is on Tukhugov, who's one of Khabib's boys, by the way. He's one of those knuckleheads that was in the ring going after Conor, I think, after that, when all the hell broke loose after the Conor Khabib fight. This is one of those guys. And 60% is on the other side. 60% of the bettors on Dawadu, and 92% of the action is on under 2.5, which is currently +160.
And Dave, I didn't give out the odds as of earlier today. I had them earlier today as +120 on Dawadu and -140, pretty even with the big Russian. Is that about what it is now?
It's -126 on the Russian, and Dawadu is +106, so it's come down a little bit.
Joey, what do you have on this fight?
No, I didn't bet this fight. I looked at both sides of this, and I think that they had a couple split decisions on their record that I respected. The guy, I just think this is a good fight. Nothing here for me. In fact, you see, I have them both circled. See those two circles, these things right here, there and there. I flipped and flopped back and forth, and I can't pick a winner here.
Do you color cut that, Joey? Do you have different markers?
Yeah, different days of the week. For real.
You use highlighters or crayons? What do you use over?
No, markers. Different days of the week. I've done the same thing since 2004, 2003. I swear to God, it's just a process I go through.
You can get that 64-pack of crayons at Walmart.
I do. You better believe it. Look, you want to see how good? You think I'm fucking kidding? Look at that.
He puts the work in, JBL. He puts the work in.
For real.
Joey does put some work in. He sends us his notes sometimes on Tuesday of the week, and it's already page after page after page of just all kinds of.
It looks like hieroglyphics. Looks like hieroglyphics.
Quantum theory.
You got to study for the exam. It's like a history teacher. For real, this is how I equate it. Like, if you're a history teacher or a history buff, you don't know every day everything. You plan for the lesson. So and it's impossible to remember all this stuff after all these, each fight. So I have to go back. Like, if I didn't tonight, for instance, Dawadu and this Russian kid, if they fight, I might be in the other room. I might not really be paying much attention to it, because I know the next time these guys fight, I'm gonna have to sit down and actually watch his fight, not as a fan, but just kind of to understand what went on in it. You get it. The X's note. The Coach Bagels goes back and looks at these fights.
That's how I studied for my COVID test. That's why I've been passing them so well.
There you go. If I have any tip I can give you, you let me know.
Philly Godfather, what do you have on this fight? Anything?
Dawadu's a high-volume fighter, very impressive record. I think he's 11-1, 4 straight victories. Public's all over him. I like the Russian. If the Russian takes him down, he's going to win the fight. I'll lay the 35 cents on the Russian.
So you like the Russian enough to actually bet on him?
Yeah.
All right, Philly Godfather on the Warrior from Russia. The next fight is a bantamweight matchup, and talk about Coach liking the other side. Last time we had Ciara Eubanks. It was 2 weeks ago on this show. She was fighting Julia Avila. We found out the coach was liking Avila very much. Philly Godfather got a phone call, said, take Eubanks.
Unload. We unload. I think it was plus 240 on Eubanks last time around. We unloaded.
It was more than that, wasn't it?
And I want to thank Coach because the new Corvette just came in, the 2020 Corvette. I put pictures on Twitter. Thank you, Coach.
That's our guy, Coach. There's a bantamweight fight, as you mentioned, a woman's fight. Caitlyn Vieira is her opponent. She is 10-1, and she is the favorite at minus 185 earlier today. 2-1 as far as KOs, TKOs, 4-0 as far as submissions. She is from Brazil. She has an incredible 92.3% takedown defense. She's fighting Ciara Eubanks, who we just mentioned, plus 160. She fought 2 weeks ago, as we mentioned, 7-4. She is 2-0 as far as KOs, TKOs, 0-0 as far as submissions. She's fought twice in 2020, and she has won both. She is a replacement for Marianne Renault. 2.5 is the over-under, and it cost you a whopping minus 355 earlier today to take the over. Dave Mason from Bet Online, what do you have?
Quick update on odds. Vieira is minus 205. Tape back on Eubanks is plus 175. We're going to need Eubanks. 73% of the cash is on Vieira. 57% of the bettors are on Vieira. Some sharp action on Eubanks, however, on the plus money. Over under 60% of the action is all on over 2.5, which is minus 325, which is a little weird, man. You know, usually they're not gonna lay the juice on those over unders. Usually they'll take the plus money, the public, but not so here.
Before I go to you, Joey, I want to ask Philly Godfather, because he seemed to be getting a phone call. Was that one of your buddies? Was that maybe Rooster? Or was that Wolf? Or
that was Coach. He was daring me. He bet Vieira. He was daring me to go against him again this time. But what he doesn't know is Eubanks has a black belt in jiu-jitsu and judo. The girl can fight. So I got to go against him again. I'm taking Eubanks again, plus the money.
So we're fading. Let me put that down. Fade the coach. Got it.
He won't stop. I keep telling him we're on the air. It's live on Twitch. It's on Twitter. Like, you got to stop calling, Coach. You either get on the show or stop calling.
You know, he texts us during the show the whole time, so I don't know why he just doesn't come on the show.
And then he goes in the chat room under different names. Like, we know it's you, Coach. Stop.
We know it's him. We know it's him.
Because he's talking about how great Coach is. I mean, we know it's him.
He uses the same athletic Al emoji. Boyfriend in a box. So we know it's him. Coach, we know it's you. There's only one boyfriend in a box. Speaking of boyfriend in a box, I'm not going to bring up the Liberty University scandal and the pool boy and the fact that you may be involved, Joey Odessa. I don't want to say this out loud, and I hope your dad's not listening right now, but we've heard rumors. So, Joey, do you have something on this fight?
Yeah,
or do you want to clean about Jerry Falwell and his wife?
No, I don't have nothing. I have nothing to say about Liberty. They won today. Didn't they win 36-34 or something, their football team?
Liberty University?
Yeah, they were at the goal line. They didn't push it in. That game was shady. That game was shady. Someone else was pushing it in at Liberty University, but it wasn't the football team.
Let me get back to this Vieira now. This and I preach this, and of these things that go way back, these old sayings, don't miss the wedding and show up for the funeral. I think that Eubanks had the wedding when she won as a dog, 2 weeks ago? I think this is the funeral. I think you cannot bet. I mean, I'm not, PG, I hate to go against you, and Jesus, I hate even more to be on the same side as Coach.
I pray for you.
I think that Vieira wins this fight. I think, wedding, funeral. She's just not, and if she does.
There's no bar mitzvahs, any sweet 16s in between, any holiday, any Easter bunnies, nothing.
Wedding,
funeral. All right.
Suit for the wedding, suit for the funeral. But, if you bet against Vieira here, I think it's a funeral. I think Vieira wins this fight.
This really hurts me to put down Joey and Coach are together on this.
I mean, Coach has got to win one eventually. You know what I mean?
You would think that he would.
Yeah.
Well, it's down. Joey and Coach on the same side.
Yeah.
We continue
Not easy.
The next fight is a flyweight matchup. It is Kayakara France. He is 21-8. Another Kiwi, New Zealand. They call him Don't Blink. He is 9-2 as far as KOs, TKOs, 3-2 as far as submissions. He's fought one time in 2020. He defeated by unanimous decision Tyson Nam. All 5 of his UFC fights have gone to decision. One loss to Moreno. Fighting Brandon Royval, who is plus 185 dog. 11-4 is his record. 3-0 as far as KOs, TKOs. 7-0 as far as submissions. So he's never been stopped. And 10 of his 11 fights have been stopped with him stopping his opponent. He has won his last 3, all by submission. 2.5 is the total on the rounds. It costs you minus 175 to bet the over. Mr. Dave Mason from Bet Online, what do you have for the money?
We got some sharp action on Royval. 56% of the bettors are money is on him as well, and 65% of the bettors are on him. 59% of the bettors are on under 2.5. But yeah, you mentioned his nickname is Don't Blink, and he just always goes decision. So I think he needs
That's right.
he needs to change his nickname if he doesn't knock this dude. If he don't win it by knockout in this fight, because Don't Blink and go in decision 5 straight fights ain't getting done nickname wise.
I thought the same thing, David. I first looked him up and Don't Blink. I thought must have knocked out everybody.
Right. It's a decision king. But whatever.
Don't blink, you can actually take a nap.
Yeah, exactly.
Come
back in 25 minutes.
Joey, what do you have on this fight?
This Kara France is City Kickboxing. There's Young is City Kickboxing, and so is there's 4 of them on this card in Riddell. And one thing that I'll say is when you get a lot of guys all from the same camp fighting on the same card, one gets beat early. You see weird things tend to happen. That's why I don't like brothers being on the same card. I think, I think Kara France will win this fight, but I think that, I think you might want to take a close look at Royval if these guys, if Young lays an egg and if Young and Silva lay an egg, Young and Riddell lay an egg, you might want to grab some dog money here because winning is contagious and so is losing. And I don't know why they packed these guys on the card, maybe to make it cheaper for them all to travel together. And you might think that helps, but I think it's a distraction when when guys are, there's 3 different guys, especially if you have a close teammate out there fighting. I like Kara France. I think Kara France beat that Tyson Nam probably 2 out of the 3 rounds. They scored all 3 for him over in Australia. On the Australia card when he beat Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam came back, won his last 2 fights. Tyson Nam hits like a brick shit house. I think if Royval wins this fight, it's going to be from pressure. It's going to have to, I'm Coach Bagels in it. I could see Brendan Royval winning this fight. I think he's got sick, insane cardio, but I also think that Kara France is just, he's a good kickboxer, good stand-up fighter. Not necessarily, like you said, not necessarily a heavy hitter, but just volume. I think Royval could, I give Royval a solid shot to win this fight, even if those guys on the undercard don't lay an egg. It's a tough fight. Gun to my head, Kara France, but you can't count Royval out. Never mind. Go ahead. I didn't bet it.
What the hell?
I know.
You got me confused.
I'm sorry.
What the hell was that?
That sounded like a political speech or something. You got me all confused.
Never seen a guy ride the fence more than Joey.
I wasn't going to raise the taxes, but we are going to raise it if we have to raise the taxes. But we ain't raising the taxes if we ain't got to raise the taxes.
Like a politician.
He's bad. He's great. He could win. He could lose. He could knock him out. He could get knocked out.
Kara France wins the fight. Finally.
That's a good
choice.
choice.
I'm not going to bet him.
I'm on the same side, Joe. Kara France wins the fight.
France wins the fight.
My buddy Gotham City loves France in this fight. I know there's some sharp money on the other side, and you got to respect the sharp money. But between you and Gotham City, you guys are 2 of the sharpest UFC guys I know, and I'm glad you finally came to that conclusion.
Yeah,
I'm on France as well.
I needed to talk myself into it. Man. Just don't mind me.
We bullied you into it, Joe.
No.
Do either one of you guys touch the total here?
What's that?
Do either one of you guys touch the total here?
I didn't bet it. I bet France. I didn't bet total.
No.
Nobody bet the total. So the next fight is the semi-main event. Dominic Reyes, at least earlier today, was a 2.5 to 1 favorite. He's 12-1, 7-0 as far as KOs, TKOs, 2-0 as far as submissions. He's a southpaw. They called him the Devastator. UFC 247 was his only loss, where he main evented against Mr. John Jones, which went 5 rounds, which Jones won by unanimous decision. That title was vacated by John Jones, so this is for John Jones' old title. He's fighting John Blachowicz, who's a plus 215 dog. Blachowicz is from Poland. He's 26-8, 7-2 as far as KOs, TKOs, 9-1 as far as submissions, and he has won 7 of his last 8. In the light heavyweight matchup, 2.5 is the round total to bet. Minus 140 as of earlier today was what it cost you to bet the over. Dave Mason, where do you have the money?
Quick update on odds. Reyes minus 253. Take back on Blachowicz is plus 213. Still over under 2.5 with over minus 150. 58% of cash is on Reyes. 63% of bettors are on the other side. 76% of the action on over 2.5, and there is some sharp action on the Polish guy Blachowicz at plus 230-ish.
Plus 230. Joey, do you have something on this fight?
Yeah, I just bet a dime on Kayakara France too, just for the record. Minus 211. I don't think Reyes beat. Everybody said Reyes beat John Jones. This is where I'm going to get long-winded. I'll try to wrap it up quick, because we talked about it earlier in the week. I don't think Reyes beat John Jones. I think Reyes won the first 2 rounds. I think Jones won the next 3. Everybody fights John Jones close, or John Jones, I should say, fights everybody close. And that's how these guys get the boost. That Anthony Smith, he had never belonged in any main events. He got himself catapulted to the John Jones fight after a couple come-from-behind victories. They said Thiago Santos beat John Jones. Bullshit. They said that Gustafsson beat John Jones, and then they had to rematch. John Jones smoked him. John Jones just, my understanding is John Jones doesn't even really train that much. I don't know, whatever, because I'm not there. I can't speak on it, but I know one thing. I know that this Reyes is not all they're saying he is. I mean, he's tough, but I got the Polish kid, man. I think John Blachowicz, plus he won 3 in a row. He's carrying a whole country on his back. UFC gets a Polish champ. These guys are fighting for, and these guys aren't, I don't think these guys are necessarily number 2, number 3 guy in the division in the world behind John Jones. I don't know. I never really looked at Blachowicz as championship material, and I sure as shit don't look at Dominic Reyes as championship material. I just think that right now that division's kind of thin, especially with Jones out, and I don't think Jones was motivated for these fights. I mean, he was a huge favorite against all these guys, and it's tough to get motivated. When you're supposed to go out there and squash a guy, how do you get motivated for that? You know what I mean? Unless you're Floyd Mayweather and you're getting $50, $100 million to do it. I like Blachowicz here. I think Blachowicz can win. He beat Anderson Silva. He had a split decision with Jacare. Rock hold. And I don't think Reyes really hits that hard. I mean, he's got 7 knockouts, but look, and Reyes, his other win, and again, I'm just thinking out loud here, he beat Chris Weidman. And Weidman's a 185-pounder that went up to light heavyweight. That's the fight he had before John Jones. So I think that Dominic Reyes is in for a bit of a rude awakening here. I like Blachowicz here.
Really, Godfather?
Reyes is the busier fighter, and he's one of the most aggressive fighters in his weight class. But if it goes to the floor, Blachowicz might sub him. I mean, it's just I didn't touch this fight, man. I don't know. I respect Joey's opinion. There's a couple other guys I respect who's on the other side, so I'm not touching this fight.
So you got a little sharp money on Reyes as well, right, Philly Godfather?
Yeah, there's sharp money, but it's on both sides, and I respect Joey's opinion.
Before we go back and redo the card, you mentioned Conor McGregor, and it says he's going to fight Manny Pacquiao. He, in my opinion, has zero chance against Pacquiao, but you guys are the experts.
Zero.
Here. So, Joey, you go
Less
0?
than 0.
0. He's got no shot.
0?
Minus 0. Whatever less than 0 is.
Negative.
We actually opened the odds yesterday, and we opened them way lower than they should be, and that this, I can put some of the, we opened them at minus 1,200, which is an absolute bargain. But after seeing what happened with Mayweather and just everybody's, all the fanboys are just going to be on Conor, and the books you're going to get the bargain of the century again. plus knowing that those odds are going to plummet, we want to avoid a scalp. If we open minus 5,000, plus 2,500, then people are going to be taking that plus 2,500, just knowing they're going to be able to scalp that later when the odds just freaking drop through the floor. So, we open as minus 1,200, but it'll go lower. I mean, if this fight happens, I mean, I never thought of Mayweather bargain against McGregor would ever happen again, but we might see it once again in December.
Philly Godfather? No chance?
I mean, come on, man. McGregor's older. He's been through a lot. He's got some headaches. Mayweather carried him the first time. Mayweather went on Jimmy Kimmel and said, bet the under 9.5. I guarantee it. 9th round comes out, he stops him. I mean, no shot.
There you have it.
No shot.
Very interesting. A very interesting odds assessment by Dave Mason. That's from Bet Online. So let me recap the entire card before we go to the main event, just for those of you that are watching that didn't perhaps get notes on it. First fight, Ibrahimov against Marquez. Joey had the under. Philly Godfather leaned Marquez. 84% of the public was on the under. Philly Godfather leaned for the under. Next fight is a heavyweight matchup. Espino versus Hughes. Philly Godfather had Hughes. Joey had a lean on Hughes as well. And price was just too high for Joey to touch the favorite. The next fight is a light heavyweight matchup. The Nightmare, William Knight. Sharp money was taking William Knight at plus 150. Joey and Philly Godfather were taking Kamur in this fight, who was the favorite. The Serbian, 77% of the public was on the under. Next fight, Smokin' Shane Young. Philly Godfather liked the over in this against Ludovic Klein. All the guys, Joey, the Philly Godfather, and Sharp Money liked Klein as well. 80% of the public was on the under. Sanchez versus Matthews. Philly Godfather thinks that the crazy man, Sanchez, will find a way to take this fight over. This is the biggest favorite on the card. Joey did not touch either side. Next fight, lightweight matchup, is Riddell versus De Silva. Joey liked the under on this fight between the former pro kickboxer from New Zealand and De Silva from Brazil. Next fight, the main card. Joey did not take a bet on this. The Philly Godfather liked the Russian in this, who is Zabara Tukugov, the Russian warrior they call him, over Hakeem Dawadu. He is a Hakeem.
That's all, folks.
That's good enough. Next fight is the bantamweight matchup. 3 words: fade the coach. Fade the coach.
Fade the coach.
So, coach, and I hate to say this, Joey Odessa liked the favorite in this, Caitlyn Vieira, and the Philly Godfather, and Sharp Money, according to Dave Mason, liked Eubanks at plus 160, who fought just 2 weeks ago.
Wedding funeral.
Auto fade.
That's true. It almost crosses each other out. But.
Next fight, the flyweight matchup, Kayakara France, Philly Godfather, and Joey, after he kind of talked himself into it, liked Kayakara France over Royval. Sharp Money was on Royval, according to Dave Mason from Bet Online. Next fight, Dominic Reyes and Blachowicz from Poland. Sharp Money was taking Blachowicz, according to Dave Mason, at plus 230. Joey also took Blachowicz. And that takes us to our main event. We are actually right on time this week. So, Israel, second time ever, you have 2 undefeated fighters fighting for a title in the main event. The first time that happened was Rasheed Evans versus Leota Machida back in May 2009, UFC 98. Israeli Adesanya is 19-0, 14 knockouts, 0 submissions, and obviously, since he's undefeated, never been submitted himself. They call him the last style bender. I have no idea what that means. From Nigeria, his last fight was Yoel Romero. He won an unanimous decision of 5 rounds. Last fight by Paul Costo was also Yoel Romero. He won a unanimous decision in 3 rounds. Costo is the dog here at plus 160, 13-0, 11 knockouts, 1 submission from Brazil. He's been into the 3rd round 1 time. It's a middleweight matchup. 2.5 is the over-under. Minus 155 is what it costs you to bet the over in this as of earlier today. Dave Mason from Bet Online, where do you have the money?
Adesanya, 67% of the cash is on Adesanya. 52% of the bettors are on them. 82% of the action is on over 2.5. We do have some sharp action on the other side. Costa, we did take some sharp action on Costa. So great action overall. Tons of action on it. By far the biggest bet fight of the card. Even more, a lot more than the co-main event. Probably about 3 times as much action than the co-main event.
Dave, how does this compare to the first COVID fights where you had Usman fighting over in Fight Island?
Yeah, not in the same neighborhood, man. Those fights were just freaking ridiculous. I mean, it's early; it could come in, but it won't surpass that. No.
Joey Odessa, what do you have for the fight?
I'm a loner here. I like Costa, and I'll tell you why I like Costa. I get it, Izzy's got cardio. Costa's going to be, Costa's going to gas and things like that. But I remember when Costa fought Romero, I sat back and I said to myself, I said, you know what? And I needed Romero that night. I said, you know what? Either one of these guys beats Israel Adesanya. That's what I thought, and I made a mental note of it. And then when Romero fought Adesanya, he just laid an egg. He did nothing. The difference here is, I believe that Costa saw what Romero did. Romero couldn't win that fight. You can't win a fight if you don't throw any punches. Adesanya is a great counter puncher and so forth, but I just think that at some point it's like kind of, let's say, who was it? Foreman and Michael Moore. Now, I know this is a horrible comparison, but, Foreman lost every round of that fight until he clocked him with that big hook. Or whatever it was, and I'm telling you that I believe, I shouldn't say I know, I know that this Izzy can be knocked out. I watched him get knocked out in that K1 bout against that Brazilian from a left hook, and I think that's Costa's best punch. And especially when he's doing all that, when he's counter punching, backing up, Costa throws pretty good when guys are on the fence. I think Costa can win this fight. I'm in a huge minority, and even the numbers will show you that. It opened at $1.35. Izzy's up to minus 185 or something like that. I think it's a winnable fight for Costa. And I think that this is lightning striking twice with undefeated fighters. The last time it was UFC 98 with Machida and Rasheed Evans. Machida knocked him out in the second round. Wahid Ismail was in Machida's corner. Wahid Ismail is in Costa's corner. And I'm not, I am selling it right now. I'm telling you that I think that Paulo Costa can win this fight, and I think he will win this fight. I bet him. And that's a wrap.
Man, it's so scary going against Joey and going against Costa. I mean, Adesanya is a little vulnerable to the left hook if you watch him fight. Costa's so busy, but his defense really isn't there. This fight ain't going to the floor. Both guys defend the takedown very well. Costa's the much busier fighter. I hate being on the same side as the public. Man, this is a tough one, JB. I'm taking the style bender, man. I'm taking Adesanya.
They were right 19 times.
He's the more accurate puncher. Even though Costa could take 3 to land one big one. It's kind of like Joe Frazier. They're not as good as Joe Frazier Ali, but it's kind of the same mentality. Joe Frazier would take 3-4 punches to land that left hook, and he would just keep coming. It didn't matter how many times you hit him, while Ali was on the outside, picking his shots, moving around. He was the longer, leaner fighter, had the reach advantage. But when Frazier landed that left hook and broke Ali's jaw, this is a real tough fight, man. I can see it going either way, but I'm going to take the skinnier fighter here. I think he's got a big chip on his shoulder. I'm going against Joey.
I've been betting against this Adesanya. I've been betting against him since, hell, Brad Tavares. Tavares went 5 rounds with him, and that just made me think that maybe Adesanya's not a great puncher. Brunson got stretched by him, but Anderson Silva won a round against him. Now I get it. It's hard to get. It's funny that I say it's hard to get up for Anderson Silva, but the version of Anderson Silva that Izzy beat was not the Anderson Silva that was wrecking dudes, 7-8 years ago. Kevin Gastelum. I thought Gastelum looked all right against him. I think Whitaker had some personal issues going into that fight, which maybe prevented him from performing really well. again, I'm going with the, he might be losing the first 3 rounds, but he's going to land. I think he's going to land
Well,
a crushing.
what scares anyone who's bet Adesanya. I mean, I think the UFC would rather have Costa as the world champion. I mean, the guy looks like, he's a Herculean supermodel. And if the fight's real close.
Looks like me.
Yeah, I mean.
Dave Mason. He looks like Dave Mason.
Well,
exactly.
Well, if you go throughout all the UFC chat rooms on the internet, they're all talking about the resemblance between Joey Delicious and Costa. So, but if the fight is close, JBL, I think the refs might be leaning Costa a little bit.
Costa's going to get the thing. Why I lean personally, Costa's he's going to pressure Adesanya, and Adesanya, I mean, he's a great fighter. Nothing in this is a classic like boxer versus puncher kind of fight. I mean, Gastelum gave Adesanya a hell of a fight. I mean, that was like fight of the year kind of candidate fight. Gastelum's, I've always been a Gastelum fan, but at minus 185, he was just too small to get it done. But I mean, Gastelum walked forward and he gave Stylebender some issues, and I think Costa could do the same thing. A lot of these guys that are fighting Stylebender are fighting tentatively. They're waiting out. Even Romero, and I'm a huge Romero fan. It was just such a freaking boring fight. Anderson Silva. I mean, they just kind of sat there, and it was some kind of boring chess match. Costa's not going to do that. Costa's going to move forward, and he's going to knock his head off, or Stylebender's going to counter and knock his head off. So I'm excited to see that someone's going to actually go forward and fight Adesanya. It's not going to be some BS chess match, not afraid to get fought. No, Costa's going forward kind of like Gastelum did, and he's going to put his face out there, and he's going to fight, and Costa's a lot better than Gastelum, and Gastelum gave Adesanya some trouble.
So which way do you lean, Dave?
I go Costa. I'm taking Costa plus 165. It's a price thing. I have it pretty much as a coin flip. These are fights I kind of love to bet. Fights that I don't know who's going to win, but I can get plus money on a guy. I love those kind of fights. When you ask me who's going to win this fight, I don't know. Oh, plus 165, that's who I'll bet. That's math right there. That's his value as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So I'm going Costa. I'm just going to watch him move forward and hope I'm right. I hope he knocks his head off before Adesanya counters and knocks his head off. So give me Costa at plus 165.
The over-under is 2.5 rounds. Did any of you guys touch over-under, or do you have a lean on this? Do you think the fight goes the distance? Joey?
I think the total's right. I think it's a good total, 2.5. I think it's priced right. I think that, if it was 3.5 or 4.5, I'd probably bet under. In fact, if it was 3.5, I would bet under.
I think the fight goes over 2.5. These guys can rumble. These guys can move. These guys have, their octagon IQ is very, very sharp. And they're going to, they're in tip-top shape. So anytime you got guys that are in tip-top shape, that can fight, that know the fight game, I think it goes over.
Well, there you have it, guys. There is the UFC breakdown. We're finished right at the top of the hour, a couple minutes overtime. But as I always do, I beg the Philly Godfather for something extra, just something extra. So, Philly Godfather, we got basketball, we got football, college football, NFL. You got anything free that we can give to our viewers out there and to me?
Yeah, I nibbled on the Nuggets money line again. I think they win the game. I took the over in the Tennessee game, over 44. And, I like the Giants this week. I think San Fran's just too banged up. Early in the week I gave it out plus 4.5. I think it's down to 3.5. I think the game closes 3. So there you go. You got 3 free picks.
3 free picks. You can't beat that with a big stick. I love it. Hey, thank you very much for joining us. This is Follow the Action. You can download our podcast on Spotify or Apple. Please go on our YouTube channel. All kinds of videos. The same podcast is on there with all kinds of free picks, all kinds of betting information. Big thanks to Mr. Dave Mason. Very happy that he is over his COVID. The supermodel is back in action with the Bet Online, with the best sports books in the world, and the legend himself. For the legend, the Philly Godfather, for the greatest combat sports handicapper in the world, Mr. Joey Odessa. And for me, John Layfield, thank you very much for joining us. This is Follow the Action. Have a great night tonight.